There's a lot that goes into making TF2 maps. You've got the world geometry, props, lights, spawns, and so on. And while most of these things are simple and self-explanatory, others have an added level of complexity that you may not know about. One example is displacements. You usually see them on the ground, walls, and ceilings where the terrain is organic. Some examples are the dirt ground on Upward and the rocky caves in Dust Bowl. Now, you might be thinking, dirt on the ground? Rocks and caves? What are you going on about? Well, stick around and you'll find out. This video is sponsored by manco.store, a TF2 marketplace where you can buy and sell TF2 items for real money. I've personally used them many times in the past and can vouch for their great prices and low fees. You can check them out through the link in the description. First of all, what is a displacement? According to the Valve Wiki, they are quadrilateral, four-sided brush surfaces that have been converted to a mesh of triangular polygons which can be freely distorted and sculpted into various shapes. If you're not satisfied with that definition, you're not alone. Here's my approach to explaining them. Every map in the Source 1 engine is built out of blocks that can be created using the block tool and hammer. These can be stretched, cut, carved, and manipulated into any shape as long as their dimensions make sense. Some examples include this cube, pyramid, cylinder, and even this sphere. A non-example is an object like this with a bent face over the top, but assuming you're following the laws of physics, we don't have to worry about that. The actual problem arises when you want to make a shape like this. It's perfectly legal and follows the laws of physics, but the Source engine just can't handle it. Why? Because it's concave, which the Source engine doesn't like. That's where displacements come in. For bumpy surfaces like dirt ground and rocky walls, you want to be able to shape the terrain so that there are parts that go in and out. But as we've just seen with this thing, blocks can't do that. So Valve created something called displacements that can. To create one, you select one or more faces of a block with four edges, go to the Displacement tab, and press Create. Then you enter a value of 2, 3, or 4, and you have your displacement, which is just a two-dimensional surface with a bunch of vertices. The higher the power, the more vertices you have to work with. Then, using the Paint Geometry tool, you can move them around however you like, or use the Noise tool combined with the elevation and scale parameters to add some randomness. Unlike blocks, concavity is not an issue, which makes this the go-to method for creating organic terrain. But there's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to these things. From obscure parameters to game-breaking exploits, the displacement is far from ordinary. The first oddity with displacements is the options we get within the displacement menu, particularly these three. No physics collision only allows physics objects and ragdolls to pass through. No hull collision allows just your collision hull and flame particles to pass through. And no rake collision allows everything but these two things to pass through. Here's a chart for visualization. I don't know why anybody would use these options since the stuff you're supposed to use displacements for is meant to be solid, so it's weird that they're here to begin with. If you've watched my video, TF2's Stair Problem, you probably already know about this, but there's a unique texture called Invisible Displacement that's meant to be used on displacements as an alternative to clip brushes. But I don't think it's ever been used in a TF2 map, and for good reason. For one, it collides with everything except bullets and rockets, and while this might seem like a good thing given it's invisible, it can create problems when using explosive weapons because it's possible for an explosion to be mere inches away from a player, yet deal no damage because it gets trapped between the surrounding geometry. That's why most mappers use the block bullets brush, even though it comes with its own set of problems. Though I'm not going to ramble about that here. If you want to hear more about that and the rest of TF2's Stair Problem, I'll have a link to that video in the description. Here's where fair gameplay starts to break down. Whenever you have multiple displacements, it's important that you sew them together to avoid gaps and seams, but sometimes they're not. And while it's almost always just a visual nuisance, in rare circumstances, it can give an unfair advantage. For example, in this spot on Dust Bowl, the neighboring displacements aren't sewn together, which leaves a gap that allows you to see blue players before they leave spawn. You can't shoot through it, but you can use it to get the jump on them. The same goes for this next spot on the second half of the stage. You can see blue players coming out of this tunnel long before they can see you. Now, this isn't so much an issue with displacements as it is poor map making, as both of these spots can be fixed in seconds as I demonstrated in one of my videos. Nonetheless, it's still something we come across from time to time. Now for something that I'm sure all of you have experienced at least once before: Teletraps. Again, this isn't really a problem with displacements, but it isn't a problem with the map either. For some reason, TF2 allows you to build teleporters where your character doesn't fit. There is a built-in check that's supposed to stop you from placing teleporters in places like this, but it's not strict enough, so there are numerous spots across different maps where you can get stuck. Because displacements are usually sloped, this means that if there's a low enough roof nearby, chances are you can build a teletrap there. So even though these spots aren't the mapper's fault, it's advisable that they keep this in the back of their heads when creating maps to stop those pesky trolls. But teletraps are nothing compared to what I'm about to show you, the first being Pixelwalks. I've talked about these before in past videos, but to give a quick rundown, Pixelwalks can occur whenever the infinitely thin edge of a brush comes to an end. But interestingly, they can also happen with displacements. For example, in the older version of Cashworks, there used to be a metal barrier made out of a displacement that you could pixel walk or pixel jump onto to access this upper level as any class. The map has since been overhauled, so this spot no longer exists, but you can still do this on several other maps. One such spot that actually has use is here on Gravel Pit. You can pixel walk along this displacement to get up towards Blue Spawn. So how does this work? Well, remember what a displacement is: a face made up of a bunch of vertices. In the case of these two displacements from Cashworks and Gravel Pit, the parts you can jump on are edges formed by protruding vertices, and because the ones that lie just above them are just slightly offset from those below so to prevent sliding, you have enough room to stand on the lower edges. Outside of the testing scene, these spots are difficult to find, yet surprisingly common. And while most of them exist in random spots that serve no purpose, a few are actually somewhat beneficial. Finally, we have the most game-breaking part of displacements, which I'll refer to as displacement clipping. This phenomenon occurs when you crouch against a displacement and then stand up. If done correctly, you clip through it, and depending on the location or method, you get stuck or go completely through it. This is how most of the Snyro and Out of Bounds exploits are found. With the former, the game thinks you're flying through the air, so using the detonator, you can increase your velocity and then switch to the flamethrower to shoot flame particles at incredibly far distances, hence the name Snyro. The latter is more concerning because a player out of bounds is essentially invincible. It also doesn't help that you can shoot through displacements while standing behind them, but not the other way around. While this exploit does exist in some official TF2 maps, it's quite rare and difficult to perform. Instead, it's most often found in Halloween maps assisted by the Minify spell. In fact, one Halloween map completely removed spellbooks because you could go out of bounds using that specific spell. What makes this exploit more bizarre is that it only works on Linux servers, so if you're running Windows and load up the map locally, this exploit doesn't work. As bizarre as it is, this exploit can be fixed fairly easily in a way that doesn't require you to mess around with the displacements. All you have to do is add a clip brush behind the displacement that blocks players who clip into it from going all the way through. Hassle Castle is one example of where this was done, though it could use some more. So the next time you see somebody doing this, or this, or this, you'll know why. Thank you for watching. This is LED, switching off.